All right. Hey, you guys. Good to see you for the second time today. Here we are again for episode 8 of Conversations with Allieetoile. Just a second, and I'm gonna let you guys get on here and join. And of course, I'm going to be having not one but two special guest speakers for this episode. And here they are now. They are two of my lovely colleagues from the Birmingham Royal Ballet, Tessa and my good friend Lenny. And I'm going to get them both on here for you guys in a second, and we will begin episode 8. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. Tessa, where are you? There she is. Hi, Tessa.
Hi.
Welcome to Conversations with allieetoile. Now, let me see if I can get Lenny in here. How do I do this? Okay, do I click on his name? Oh no, it's giving me an error message. It says, okay, well, the internet lies, you guys. Apparently, I was under the impression that you could have two people or three people on here at one time, but you cannot. So Lenny is here. He's on standby. I'm going to have him join us in just a little bit, and we'll start with Tessa. So for those who are joining us live right now, again, welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. And of course, one of the two lovely guest speakers I have today is the lovely Tessa Hogge, who is my Floridian sister and fellow colleague at Birmingham Royal Ballet. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Tessa for a little bit and let her talk to you guys a little bit about who she is, a little bit of your training background, and where you're at now.
Hi, guys. So my name is Tessa. I'm 19, just recently, and I like Allie. Trained in Florida, South Florida, Cuban training, and then I trained in Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, and then went to the Milwaukee Ballet 2 program, and then I'm at BRB.
Yay! So Tessa is actually, you're currently an apprentice this season with Birmingham Royal Ballet. Yes. So this is really exciting because we're going to be able to get your insight on so many different things, the perspective of being a student, transitioning to a pre-professional program like you were in Milwaukee, and now being in a professional company. And of course, starting your career with BRB is amazing. My goodness, she's an amazingly talented dancer, and a lovely friend of mine. So I'm beyond happy to have her be part of this. So I wanted to begin this obviously with there was a lot of questions that people have sent in regard to what's the current situation with Birmingham Royal Ballet, how are the dancers being affected, and what do we know? What can we expect moving forward? Obviously, there's a lot of information that at this point we're still not allowed to release, and we will be doing that as soon as we have the ability to do so. But I figured we could talk a little bit about what has happened and what we are hoping will happen in the future. And Tessa, I'll let you talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think we can both, since we both are at BRB, so we both are kind of in the, I mean, everyone's really in the same boat, dance-wise, but I mean, with BRB, luckily they give us Zoom classes that we can take and recordings for those who can't make that time period. So they've been really helpful in that way since we haven't been able to obviously be at work. So BRB has been really great in that way. But staying in shape, walking around, doing as much exercise as you possibly can is really what any of us can do at this time. But it's nice to remember we're all in the same boat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And definitely, I mean, people are writing, and I've got my laptop set up next to me and asking, when are you guys coming back? When are we performing again? Obviously, it is our hope and our intention to get back to our season or potentially starting what we're doing next season as soon as possible. But again, we have to follow very strict rules from the company, from the government. And of course, we only want to do this when we have absolute confirmation that it is safe for all of the dancers, all the staff, as well as safe for our lovely supporters and audience members who come and watch what we do near and far. So with that being said, we will continue to keep you guys updated, and we do thank you for your support at this time because this is not just BRB who's affected, it is the whole ballet community. So Tessa, I had a few lovely questions that I personally wanted to have a discussion with you about. And then, of course, Lenny, who is going to be coming on here in a little bit, I want to chat with him about that. And a few that people have wrote in that I think are very, very interesting. And I wanted to offer those to both of you guys. So that first one being is obviously you have mentioned that you are a Cuban trained dancer like myself. Of course, we've had the opportunity. I personally can speak that I've had opportunities to learn multiple other styles throughout my training history, but someone wants to know what is it like as a predominantly Cuban trained dancer to be dancing with like the Royal Ballet? And I think that they're addressing this from the dance style per se, because it is very different to the British, the royal school type thing. We move very differently. In fact, both of us have been approached by our staff, and not ever in a negative way, but it's what makes us unique. It's what makes us our own individual artists. So, what can you describe a little bit? Has it been a challenge to adjust? Have you been trying to adjust? And do you view it as a strength or a weakness?
I think that everyone, to a certain degree, is trained differently. No one is exactly like another dancer, but especially Cuban trained, it's especially that I've noticed or heard from the artistic staff is my arms are very different than the. I'm sure you've heard that too.
The
Arms
port
are
de
very different.
bras. Yeah.
Um, it's definitely more romantic style, and I actually heard that the first time when we were doing Nutcracker. And they're like, you need to be more romantic with your arms. You're too. It's too much. Too. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but
Elaborate, maybe?
yeah, it's
Too
too elaborate.
grand.
Yeah, it looks too grand. But that was just the way that we grew up trained.
It's
But
a very
it's nice.
expansive type of movement.
Yeah, exactly. And neither one is better than the other. They're just slightly different in that way, for sure.
Definitely. And I think that we can use that to our advantage when we have different types of rep and it requires us to move differently. Having that knowledge, or at least having an awareness of how different schools train, how different companies move, it can only better you as a dancer. And I think it's very, very important. Now, Lenny is on the completely other side of this because he has been through Royal Ballet School pretty much all the way through. So I'm really looking forward to get his opinion on this one. But on to the next question because I have so many, and I'm so bummed that we couldn't do this like three people on here. So we may need to end up just pausing halfway through and restarting up with Lenny because I want to give him plenty of time to speak as well. But I wanted to chat. Oh, sorry, that's my little dog is sleeping and having a bad dream if you're hearing this whimpering. Stanley, it's okay. Um,
Oh.
he's just trying to get more attention. Okay, so I wanted to discuss, obviously, there's a few other things that make us unique to being in England. We're both Americans in a foreign country. What can you talk about what that's been like, not only transitioning into, you know, student to professional, but making that huge leap of going over an entire ocean? How has that been? How has it been for you, your family, and what have you learned through this process?
Mm. Well, socially, it's really different. Like culturally, very different moving across to England. But um, yeah, definitely, it was very different to try to find different supermarkets and driving on the other side of the road. Obviously, we don't drive, but it shocks you a little bit at first when you see someone on the other side of the car driving, and you're like, just things like that. It was definitely a cultural shock,
Sure.
and yeah, definitely in that way. And going into this company was different for me. You're kind of correct. You have to correct yourself at this point, and that was not something that coming from school you're really used to. And no one's gonna. I mean, it would. They still correct you at BRB, but you're definitely correcting yourself, and you definitely have to be motivating yourself.
Sure, sure.
Not. So that was different. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, of course. And then, aside from it being different culturally, it being a big transition from United States to, being abroad, as far as, and this is something very interesting. Someone wrote in and was asking about insecurities. This is your apprentice year, so I'd love to be able, I had my apprentice year at Houston Ballet. Everybody goes through it at some point. What has been obviously, has there been anything unexpected, anything that was super challenging, or anything that was surprisingly easy? And then, of course, is it normal to feel pressured, or insecure about certain things, and how have you worked through that?
It's definitely completely normal to feel insecure, especially for me. It was coming in as being an apprentice, and I didn't come at the start of the year, so I was a little late. So not only was I late, but I was coming in as an apprentice. So I had to figure out where I belonged and who I was friends with and all this kind of stuff that was definitely new to me. And I felt very insecure, not knowing the rep at all. You know, you're so used to doing one thing, and Nutcracker is just something that when I came in, it was something that everyone knows kind of generally the steps to, but learning it and fairly quickly and having to
Yeah,
jump definitely something that worried me. And being a different style dancer, definitely it was difficult to try to find my place, but it's definitely normal to feel insecure and not not like you fit in, but that's kind of how you know that you really want it, really.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think definitely you have been a perfect example, and I'm sure for all of our colleagues, hopefully some of them are watching right now or will see this. Definitely you have such a lovely personality, and that makes it so easy to be able to bond and connect with you on a personal level, human level, aside from being in the studio. But your mindset and your outlook on how you've approached things has been really, really wise beyond your years per se, being that you're now 19. And definitely, I think I wanted to highlight again, I'm proud of you because I feel like you're my little ballet sister in some capacity. Like I feel responsible to take care and make sure that, like, I mean, of course, like I'm at the beginning part of my like my career as well, but I mean, I started my apprentice years when I was 17, so I know exactly the feeling of just how inundated you feel and how truly overwhelming it can be, but also the overwhelming isn't all necessarily this negative, hard, oh my gosh, it's so stressful. Sometimes it's overwhelmed with the environment and
Mm-hmm.
how exciting and how new everything is. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about the environment at BRB because there's a lot of questions about what do we do there? Do we like it? I mean, I love it. I'm sure everyone has in their own companies, everyone's got their own unique personal experiences, some potentially better than others, but how has your experience been so far? And what are you most looking forward to when we get back into our season?
I think that my favorite part about BRB is the rep. I love classical rep that they do. It's really fun to do the classics. And yeah, and also everyone there is just great. Everyone's super sweet and really encouraging to each other because everyone knows how hard it is. We all know how hard it is doing as many shows as we do. Most likely, like the same thing every day. You know, it's fun. Like it was definitely difficult to do that every day, sometimes twice a day during Swans, and definitely everyone. I think everyone feels the same, so we all kind of bonded over that.
Definitely. And BRB is a
So,
touring
but
company.
definitely the person.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
we
that's also
perform a
another
lot.
added stress of at different speeds. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So being that we
definitely. And the
are,
staff is really great too.
oh, sorry, we've got a little bit of an overlap. I don't want to interrupt. I think our connection is maybe a little slow. Okay, well anyway, I was gonna say we are a touring company. You know that. Everyone knows it. And so one of the next questions was obviously, because we tour so much, because we perform so much. I mean, we were supposed to be doing 40 something Swan Lakes before all of this coronavirus happened. I think we got to like 35 or something like that. Um, and so, obviously, I wanted to get your perspective of what is more difficult, or what do you personally think is more difficult, the physical demand of what we're doing or the mental component to what we do, being a touring company and one that travels all over the country, the world?
I think for me, it's probably more mentally challenging. I mean, it's naturally hard to get up in the morning and to get your body warm and just mentally prepare for the day that you know is going to be difficult. But once
Sure.
you get into it, I mean, even starting ballet, I wasn't exactly excited to get up and go to ballet class because, I mean, it's challenging. It's hard. Ballet's hard.
Yeah.
So, but then once you're there, you realize how much you really enjoy it, and the physical is just it is what it is, and you get used to it. But definitely the mental for me.
And how important would you say having a routine is? And then, of course, let's fast forward and put it into today's context. How has your routine changed, and what are you doing right now to keep that sort of? I think that we both, and especially because we're used to it with our normal work schedule at BRB, we're very used to kind of a regimented day, a week, how we just go through our lives.
Mhm. Yeah, so getting up every day at the same time, and you definitely get into a routine of doing things. So during this whole virus and all that, I mean, again, everyone's kind of in the same boat, trying to figure out a new routine for the next few months. I don't think it has to be the same thing that you're used to, because this is not something anyone's used to. So kind of figuring out a new thing, a new time that you get up every morning, a new time that you know is designated for the day of walking around and stretching and putting on the pointe shoes and doing what you have to do to get into your own way. And even being here in Florida, it sounds silly, but to go outside and actually, if you walk around and exercise around the neighborhood and things like that, the sun goes down a little later, or it'll go down a little earlier in some places. So even that's just different to figure out when to do certain things. So it's you just have
Absolutely.
to change what the environment is.
No, completely, completely. I couldn't agree more. I'm of the same mindset. Like, I'm trying to get up, and usually I play with my dogs, and then I have to get on here and do whatever episode I'm doing for Conversations with Allieetoile, and then I get my day going. I've been biking 7 miles every day, doing bar and just little things, changing it up because I'm someone who hates doing the same thing every single day. As far as my training and exercise goes, I try to give myself different settings if it's moving to a different room in the house, going outside, and then of course with what I'm doing, I try to do different materials. So that's been beneficial for me. And I think, I don't know, has that been something that you have been found beneficial, just being able to distance yourself or being able to, find something new every single day to mentally stimulate yourself just as much physically?
Yeah, I think you take for granted how nice it is to be social with other people, and you don't realize how invested, like how much of that takes up of your day. So then when you don't have that, you're like, oh, what do I do for these next few
Yeah.
hours? Do I do another part? Do I walk around the neighborhood again? There's just, you don't realize what you have until till you don't have it for a bit.
For sure, for sure. I mean, the camaraderie that we have within the company and just being around people too. Like, I miss doing a tendu and looking and seeing someone next to me or feeling someone in front or behind me and just knowing that we're together and doing things. It's definitely been a big wake up call. Like, wow, when I get back to this, it's going to have a whole new meaning, like a whole new meaning and a whole new appreciation. And so that kind of is tied into the next question. Um, and I want to use the key word here, appreciation. Um, Someone wrote in and asked, they said being part of like the Royal Ballet family is something that is a goal and a dream for so many people. I'm honored to be here. I think that it goes without saying, all of us are beyond honored to be part of such an amazing company and represent this art form at a very high caliber. You know, what can you talk about? We have the ability to go on tour to some amazing venues. For example, we were at Royal Albert Hall. What does it feel like? What is it like to be able to be in such historical venues? Sadler's Wells as well. That's like the birthplace, one of the birthplaces of Sadler's Wells Royal Ballet. I mean, where this all was built up from the ground and being able to dance in front of people like Sir Peter Wright. How has that impacted your career and how has it motivated you? And are you using any of that knowledge to motivate you to do things now?
I definitely being able to go to those venues and just be a part of Birmingham Royal Ballet in general is just, you feel incredibly lucky. Um, yeah, incredibly lucky to be able to do all this. So it motivates me in that way, that I know that not everyone gets this opportunity, and um, I feel very honored to have gotten it. So it definitely makes you work harder because you want to keep it, and you want to be good at it. You want to prove your worth to not only someone who hired you, or you're in the production with, but to yourself. You want to prove to yourself that you deserved it and you worked for it. Ballet is just
Definitely.
one of those where you need to work for. There's no stopping point, which is something else that I really enjoy about it. But
Absolutely. And so someone also wrote in, and I want to really pay attention to these because these are so incredibly well-developed questions. Someone was asking, how do you know what company is right for you? Um, Personally speaking, I think that you never really know until you're there. Because it's you have to have an experience. You have to give yourself an opportunity to experience that. And so at least for what I've done in my past and what I would do in my future is definitely look at your own type of who you are as a dancer and think about what rep would I like to dance? What types of directors and choreographers would I like to work with? And try and base it off of companies that maybe offer what you're looking for. Of course, if you'd like to be in a company that tours a lot, look at companies that have a lot of international or domestic tours. And then Tessa, I don't know, what was so appealing about Birmingham Royal Ballet to you? Or when you were in your audition process, how did you go about choosing where you would like to potentially have a career?
definitely, I think that for me, the rep was the first thing that I'd look at because you want to love what you're dancing in, and most likely you will. But if you truly love ballet, you'll like whatever you get to dance. But definitely, Birmingham Royal Ballet was very classical rep to me, and I love the classics. So that was some definitely I was drawn to. And the venues that they got to dance with, I was like, oh, that would be so exciting. I want to be with a touring company. Um, so that was definitely something that I was excited about. And obviously, Casa Costa being the new director was something that I was like, wow, I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
those are the three. And also knowing people, knowing connections with other people. The dance world is small. So you hear good things from everyone about definitely certain places that you would be suited for because that's just the way that it is. So
Definitely. And I think at a time like this, it's especially helpful to tap into our social networking and our electronic devices to be able to reach out and connect with people. I really feel, and I've had this discussion with several of the other guests who have been on here about students who are right at that edge of trying to get hired or trying to be in some sort of a professional program for next season. And right now is very challenging. And so use your resources, send emails, keep your voice heard by these companies, and reach out to dancers if you have colleagues or friends or people that you know who are in companies that you're interested in and talk to them about their experiences and use this time while we might not be able to necessarily grow in a studio setting to grow with your knowledge and your understanding of the ballet world because everyone has so much time on their hands right now and communicating is so important. I think it's something that should be more normalized between dancers and staff and dancers and other dancers and just the ballet world in general to be able to talk about what we do, to be able to talk about our experiences. And that leads me into my next point is, why do you think it is really difficult to discuss personal and or very mental or emotionally triggered subjects within our ballet community? Is it something that you think is just we don't talk about it because we don't want to start the drama, or is it difficult to talk about because maybe we're not comfortable with broaching those topics?
I think definitely that when you feel like you're not mentally there, or you have issues that you don't really want to talk about, I feel like it's not necessarily because you don't want to talk about it, but you also, talking about it makes it real. And you definitely don't want to make it real to yourself. And you definitely don't want others to think that there's something going on. Because I feel like it's just hard to look at yourself in that way that there's something that you're not dealing with the way that you want to. Everyone wants to be perfect and everyone wants to be the best that they can be. So any sign of weakness or potentially what they think is weakness, but the thing is that everyone has the same. Everyone feels the same about.
Sure.
And so I feel like people just talk to others because most likely, again, we're all dealing with the same. We're all in the same boat. Now, especially during this, it's going to be difficult for dancers being in this space where you can't really do much. So if people just would talk to each other, I think they would realize that everyone kind of is going through the same.
Definitely, definitely. And one last question before I transfer this over to Lenny's side. I wanted to talk about what do you want to see change within the ballet community? You know, we're at a time right now where obviously everything's on hold, but we will be getting back to it at some point. And there's a current culture within the ballet world. You know, there's stereotypes, there's stigmas, there's lovely things and things that are less than lovely. What is something that you would love to see change, potentially love to see more normalized, or something that you think needs to be addressed because it's been neglected?
Yeah, I so this one was a difficult one for me to think about because definitely when I was growing up, did YGP, I did a American dance competition, I did Universal Ballet competition, and it is only natural that everyone's going to be competitive just in the art itself, but also especially at competitions. But people were just so hostile towards each other
Mm-hmm.
without words in those environments, which is understandable again because it is a competition. But I wish people would just have fun because that's the whole point of doing ballet and dance in general is the everyone wants to have fun, and I wish people wouldn't take it so seriously because we're all nice people generally. Everyone's a nice person. So
Yeah,
I just wish that people were kind to everyone in those type of environments because it would make everything so much easier and so much more of a learning environment.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Tessa, I want to bring Lenny on here now and chat a little bit about with him, but if there is time remaining, I will bring you back in at the end for a little bit more. But for right now, I want to thank you for all of the amazing wisdom you have shared with myself. I miss you to death, and thank you so much again for coming on here and speaking with everyone a little bit.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, Lenny, if you are here, I'm going to try and figure out how to connect you onto this because I am not a internet wizard. And in the meantime, Tessa, thank you so much. Love you heaps, and we'll see you
Thanks, guys.
soon.
Love you.
All right,
We'll see
bye.
you.
Okay, so let's see. Lenny, where are you? Okay, I think he's here. I hope. Connecting. Ah, there he is. Hello,
Hi.
sir. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Well, I want to pass the mic to you. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself to our viewers. And of course, yeah, talk a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and obviously, it goes without saying, of course, you're one of my lovely colleagues and very close friends here at BRB. So I'll let you take it away.
Hi, guys. So, my name's Lenny. I am 21 years old and I'm a dancer with Birmingham Royal Ballet currently. I studied in Antwerp for about 8 years, and after that, I went to the Royal Ballet School in London, where I did the upper school, and I graduated with a contract with Birmingham Royal Ballet, which I'm still there. So, yeah, that's very, very short introduction.
No, it was perfect. It was perfect. So I want to dive straight into some of these questions. Something that I started with Tessa with, which I'm sure you heard. Obviously, Tessa and I are kind of, I feel like, the black sheep of the Royal Ballet because we're so different. Like we dance so differently. And it's funny, like the first day I walked in, before people even heard me speak and think they heard an American accent, they were like, she's American. You can tell by the way she moves. You are obviously complete opposite of that. You have been through Royal Ballet School pretty much your entire training career. And so this is definitely like you are what I envision to be that, you know, classic, refined, very elegant type of that dancer. You know, what are your thoughts on dancers who have different types of training? Of course, I want to talk about your training as well and how has that prepared you to be in a Royal Ballet company? And then, of course, what are your thoughts on, you know, when you're in a certain type of company like BRB and having international dancers from all over the world, is it a good thing to have different types of movement going on? Or do you think that it's something that there are some companies are very strict on having everyone's cut from the same mold?
So definitely when I studied in Antwerp, it was like Russian style basically. So for 8 years, I did Russian style. Um, and then I moved to London, and I thought that going from a Russian school back to like a like royal school in London, like I just got brought back to like the real basics, because all these people from all over the world join upper school, and the teachers haven't really like seen any of these, and it's basically like joining a company like you just did. Like we all came in and we all looked different and we all had different styles. So going to the upper school, like it definitely at the beginning was going back to those basics and making sure that we all looked like English dancers, and it was very like slowly but surely. And I don't know, I think the transition for me going from my graduate year into the company was very easy, because by the time I was in third year, like it was basically like my daily thing, like my daily routine was an English ballet class, and
You were
like
prepared,
the
yeah.
rep that we did at school, all English, and like the rep was basically the same as like the companies that like BRB and Royal Ballet, like we did their rep. So it was very easy for me to transition from school into a company. But also I would definitely say that like coming into a company and seeing all these people from like different countries and not having that Royal Ballet School training, it's so interesting, because you learn so much from other people. And especially I feel like within a school, you like they put you in a box, or at least like that's my experience, like they put you in a box and you have to look a certain way, and that's their way of thinking, and that is fine, that's a school. But going to a company, everyone's much more like free and like their own person and their own type of dancers. And when people like you or Tessa like came in, like you of like of course you can tell that you guys are American, but it's so interesting to see how you guys move, and we can learn from those like movements as well. Like and it's so interesting. I find it really interesting.
And so I want to tag on to that real quickly because someone wrote in, how do you know what style is right for you? I want to just quickly add, I think that there's no wrong way of doing ballet. Like there's no wrong way to learn it. I think that each unique training method and schooling, Vaganova, Balanchine, Cuban, French, all these different things, I think that having a comprehension or at the very minimum, an awareness of what those different schools look like, I think it just helps. Um, whether or not you're in love with one or raised up on one or the other, that's a whole separate thing. But I do want to just put out as a prerequisite, I think that all styles have produced beautiful dancers. So I'm going to let you finish. Basically, how do you know, or how do you figure out what you think would be best for you?
No, I completely agree. Like having learned two styles, like they, of course, they're very different, but it's not that I prefer one or the other. Like I think that it's different, and you have to adjust, and it takes some time. But I think, yeah, I don't think there is a right or wrong style, like you said. Like it's just the company that you're in, you need to adjust to. And being a professional dancer, I think that's required of you, being able to be adaptable. And because even like we are a royal company, and yes, our classic ballets, like we have to be like an English type of dancer, but we also are required to do contemporary stuff and move completely different than a swan lake performance. So
Yeah,
a professional dancer needs to like learn so many different styles. So yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, the ballet world has, to us, it's so small, but it's also a huge part of our world. It's a big part of our identity. It's a big part of it is what we do. And so part of this is kind of going to be a more generalized discussion topic, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, you have now been in a company for a few seasons. You've made that transition from student to professional, and you've kind of, gotten over the hurdle per se. What advice can you give to dancers who are in our position? Because we're not yet at that hopefully pinnacle of our career being principal dancers, but we're also working towards those promotions or trying to take those steps to improve and hopefully be able to dance things that we're interested in dancing. What advice could you give to someone who is wanting to progress? But obviously, when you're doing corps de ballet work for girls or even for the guys, sometimes it's a lot of standing and waiting around, or sometimes it's a lot of waiting and watching and covering things. And what is your mindset and how do you cope with that? How does it, because there are days we've been through this, and recently with our Swan Lake rehearsals, there's days where it just is, it's hard. It's really hard.
I think definitely it's a hard period being a corps de ballet member. Like, and I'm not saying that like being a principal, it definitely is more. It's harder, but
They're
I
different. They
think
have
being a corps de
totally
ballet
different. Yeah,
exactly, like I feel a corps de ballet members, like you just have to be patient and take every opportunity that you get given with both hands and not be scared to show your qualities. Don't feel like you're at the bottom of the ranks. You shouldn't be showing your full potential. Like you need to go and like show those people, show your ballet staff what you're worth. And yeah, my kind of mindset to this is just show what I've got, and yeah, basically like do whatever they like give me, like whatever opportunity they cast me or give me, like just take it with both hands, work hard, like. And there's always like people, like every day we all like learn new things, and I think for ballet dancers that's like even like more accurate because like we have to learn so much, like
definitely.
ballet wise. So I think just take every opportunity with both hands and be grateful for what you get, and yeah, just look up to the older people and like dream that one day you can do something like them.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit more on the mental component here. Um, More in a class type setting. There are days, we've all had it. You've seen me have them. I've seen you and Tessa, of course, she's been here. We all see this. There are days when it just doesn't work. It's not happening, and it's not fun to cope with. I mean, you've seen me just start a combination and just, we can laugh about it, but it doesn't feel good when it doesn't work out. What advice can you offer about when you're just having an off day, nothing seems like it's working, and it feels like it's the end of the world? Which, note, it's not the end of the world, but it feels like it. It's hard because we are people, we are beings who expect so much from ourselves. We hold ourselves to such high expectations, and that's what our daily work is. I mean, we're kind of crazy. Like, we stand in front of mirrors all day long and we try to find things that are wrong with ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hard, and everyone has those days like where you just wake up and you're like, oh, it's just one of those days that is not working and it's not going to work. And it is hard, and especially if you have like a busy day, like you have a full call or even like a double show day and it's an off day, like, and you need to just try and like use that class as like just a warm up and go back to the basics. And if it doesn't work, then try it again and keep trying and make sure that like it's fine. And if it doesn't work, then you need to switch off at the end of the day and you need to leave it behind in the studio. Whatever happens in the studio, that stays in the studio. Like if you have an off day, like that's absolutely fine, we all have it, but you need to go home and then you need to relax and take that day, just it's just an off day, and you just need to accept that, and you just need to wake up the next morning and feel like, okay, like yesterday wasn't my day, but today's going to be a better day, and today it's going to be better, and it will be better because we all have these days. Like we're all the same. We're all just humans, and we all make mistakes and stuff. But yeah, we just need to accept it, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. And how do you, when you're having those days, how do you pull yourself out of that? I mean, obviously, yes, class comes to an end and we move on to the next rehearsal, and usually that already just kind of snaps it like, okay, we're ready to get into the next part of our day. But we're here at home right now, for example, and that is another valid reason of why we could be potentially in a little bit of a lower place mentally, where obviously our careers are on hold and our career is one that has an expiration date with our body. how does it make you feel, or what can you talk about with, obviously not being able to dance right now? Are you concerned about, yeah, if I was dancing right now, maybe I would have had the opportunity to do this role or to potentially even be promoted? I mean, this is something that could easily be the case for somebody out there in this career field. How are you viewing this time, and how are you pulling yourself out of those thoughts about, oh, I could be doing this, or this would have been happening then?
I think it's definitely easy to fall into the pattern where you're just like, oh, like, I can't be dancing, and like it's my passion and I want to do this and I can't, and it's going to take a long time before we get back into the studio, and it is a
Mm-hmm.
difficult time. But you just need to think that like everyone is in the same position. And personally, what I've been doing is I've been waking up and I've just been doing things that I've wanted to do for a long time but was never able to do because I was in the studio from 10:30 till 6. So like I've just started an online course, and I've just been trying to find like a way, like something else that I might be interested in for like when that expiry date comes with my body, because you never know, it could literally be like next week or something, like where you just can't do it anymore and you have to find something else. And what better time to like find a new passion of yours like in this time? So I've been really trying to explore what I enjoy besides like ballet. And of course we have, obviously Birmingham Royal Ballet has been really good at like providing online like classes, which of course it's so nice because you get to see the people that you usually work with and that you're not allowed to see anymore. So that's been really nice, and just gives you like that little bit of ballet in your day. But just make the most of the time that you are off, I guess, and try not to
Sure.
think like this is not the end. Like we will come back into the studio and we will be dancing again before we know it.
Absolutely. And so I want to quickly, someone sent in an amazing question here. I talked about this a little bit earlier in my first discussion with Joey Gaddy, who is on here. We talked about self-image in ballet. For boys and girls. We talked about this briefly earlier. We were talking about how puberty affects all of us as growing, developing young dancers. And then we can even talk about this now. We are out, past that point in our development physically, but still we hold ourselves to unbelievably strict standards and high standards for how we look. I mean, ballet does. This is something that it's just it's part of the job, and it's historically there. We're supposed to look a certain way, and it's not just the aesthetic there, it's also for us to be able to move, for guys to be able to partner us. I mean, and it goes for girls and for guys, for people who are struggling with their own self-image. I personally have before. Tessa and I have had discussions. She's gone through this as well. Have you been through something like this? And, what is your outlook now with physical image for ballet dancers? Because there's a lot of us who struggle with this, whether it's something as extreme as eating disorders or something just as simple as, having a bad hair day and letting it completely destroy your day.
um I've had so many insecurities about like my body and the way I look in ballet, like not even within ballet, just like outside as well. Like it is like normal, like you get confronted with your like self-image every single day. Like we walk into a room which is four walls full of mirrors, like you see yourself from each angle every day,
Mm-hmm.
like the full days. It is so confronting and it's so hard to not let yourself go down a negative path. And I don't know, I feel definitely at school I was more negative about myself because I don't know, there is more pressure on you, I feel almost in school. Like, I don't know, that's maybe like my view, but I feel like since being in a company, like it's much more like, I don't know, you get on with your day, and it's just, I'm more busy with learning the rep because I don't know if this is in many other companies, but I know that in BRB, like we get like a week and we could be on stage. Like
Yeah, we
I feel
do.
like in a company, we could walk into the studio and we just have to like straight away learn, like especially pieces that they've just done recently, like Swan Lake, for example. We learn it in like a few weeks, and then we're off on tour, and we don't come back home for like a few weeks, or we nutcracker Nutcracker, like I remember last year when it was my first Nutcracker with BRB, like the finale of the second act, we literally spent 20 seconds and they were like, let's do a run through. And I was like, like, I don't know the
Yeah.
steps. Like, there was just no time for me to look in the mirror because we go so quick. So I reckon, like, I feel like don't let, like, the fact that you're here at this point and whatever stage you're at means that, like, you are, like, the dancer that you are. And you just have to embrace your body and embrace your weaknesses, but also, like, take, like, I don't know, just pat yourself on the back that you do have some strengths. Like, even if you don't think you do, you always do.
We always, no, I couldn't agree more. This is something that we're going to keep working on trying to better ourselves until the day we take our final bow. It goes without saying. We're never going to be done training and done improving. Like there's always something. But I think it's very important to realize that, yeah, and I was the same way when I was growing up as well. I would try to find the flaws and try to find these things that were negative about me. Um, one thing for me that I always got, I mean, you see me dance, so you know my body type. My legs have always been a source of strength and have always been a source of weakness. I was thankful that I had the flexibility to do extensions and things like that, but I have very hyperextended knees. And even more so, very bow-legged knees. So my knees look like they're turned in all the time. I can't tell you how many teachers I've had got on me that say, your knees are turned in, your knees are not over your toes in a plie, this and this and this and that. And it wasn't until the day when I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos and got an x-ray of my knees that showed my knee joints are actually crooked. They're actually like turned at I think it was like a 40 something 7% angle. And I'm like, my knees are straight. This is just the shape of my knees. And yeah, it makes kind of a cool dippy line when I'm in an arabesque or on point. And, of course, I'm still going to get corrections about my knees. And I realize that. But also, I can use that as my strength because that's something that maybe the person next to me doesn't have. I think it's important to find those things that make you unique because part of being an artist is having your own identity, whether it's in your physical appearance or in what you portray on stage. And you have those things about you too. I mean, we all have those little subtle differences that make us who we are. And it shouldn't be something to tear you down. It should be something to build you up. And I think that you said that beautifully. So I know I told you questions that we were going to talk about, but everyone's sending them in, so I think I'm just going to dive into these, put you on the spot. Um, this is something, again,
That's all right.
very sensitive topic, but I think it's so relevant. Um, Having the comfort and ability to talk about what you want out of your career with your artistic directors and ballet masters. Somebody wrote in and was talking about, I really want to ask if I can learn this or if I can watch this rehearsal, but I don't know, I don't want to be disrespectful about it. Kudos to you. I don't want to give any names, but I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's totally fine and totally normal to talk, of course, respectfully, but speak to your artistic directors and your staff about asking for an opportunity to learn. It's not saying, yes, can I have a show? Can I have the Saturday matinee of, Nikia and Bayadere or whatever? No, it's, can I have the opportunity to learn? Because at some point I want to be doing that. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on asking for those opportunities?
I mean, I've always been a very shy guy, so I wouldn't personally go and ask for that. And also I feel like personally I want to be given roles, and if I'm not given those roles in a certain company, then maybe that company isn't right for me and they don't see the talent that I have. So personally, I don't know how I would go, like if I would go up to a director and ask for certain roles, but if I feel like it is definitely something that you could do, and if you want to, like, go to your director and speak in a respectful way to him and be like, look, like, him or her, like, just ask them and be like, look, this is one of my dream roles, like, and we're doing this ballet, like, I'm not saying I want a show, but could I just attend the rehearsals? And I'm sure that you could find a way with him. But I think definitely if that's something that you want to do, then go ahead, I would say.
And I want to comment on
Def-
your personal side of this as well, saying that maybe it's not something that you would personally feel comfortable doing, but being rewarded, saying how you would rather be given that opportunity. I think that that's also a very commendable thing because that, again, you're showing. I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than words as well in life, in ballet, in anything. And I think that you being able to work, put in that time and the dedication and being rewarded with those opportunities is a highly commendable and it's something that we all would love to have happen to us. Additionally, kind of tagging on to that, what you want out of your career. Someone wrote in and asked about basically if you're not happy or if you are looking for a change per se, what advice can you give? Whether it's, I mean, I don't know if they mean leaving and going into another company, but again, if you're unhappy in your current situation, what tools and resources should you be tapping into, or what tools and resources do you use to try and put yourself on the right path again?
I definitely feel that if you are unhappy in a place and you're thinking of maybe going to a different place, then even if you're unhappy and you don't really feel like, you wake up and you're like, I don't really want to go into work, I don't really want to do this show, or I'm not happy with like the people here, the way that they work, like, but you want to go somewhere else and explore the world, then you should take the fact that you have this place where you can go every day, like with both, like this opportunity with both hands, and you should just like go into class, work like for yourself, even though you feel like you're not your happiest like within yourself within this place. Just work hard and try and improve as much as you can, and don't let the fact that you're unhappy in this place make you like not work enough, like hard enough anymore, because there are so many other places, and I'm sure that like if you work hard enough and that you'll find somewhere else that will make you happy. And if ballet is not, if you think that ballet is not for you anymore, then you need to think it through, definitely, because I think it's a very big step to just leave the ballet world. And like once you're out and like you've been out for a bit, it's definitely really hard to come back, I would say. Or that's at least like my view on it. I think that you just need to like think it through and talk to people about it, see like what, like tell them how you're feeling about this, and maybe they can help and be like, from an outside view, they could maybe help you and be like, yeah, maybe like these are signs that you want to leave. And I don't know, I always like to talk to my friends about how I'm feeling, and I think I've got some really good friends that I like know that I can trust. And when I
Yeah.
feel down, I go up to them and I ask them, and I'll be like, look, like maybe I'm not happy today, like maybe like Swan Lake is not for me, or like, and they're always there for me. So I think talking is a very good way of coping as well.
Definitely. And we've only got about 6 minutes before this thing auto shuts off, but I want to fit in one quick question before we wrap this up. I asked this to Tessa, and she gave a really, really unique insight as well, and I want to ask the same to you. Are there any stigmas or stereotypes, or is there anything in the ballet world that when we're out of this, when we come back to normal working times, that you would love to see change, or at least be more normalized or open and see some steps taken in the right direction within the ballet community?
I would love for ballet dancers to be more appreciated and to actually to have people realize how hard ballet is. I think that a lot of people think that ballet is easy because what people ask us within the ballet world is to make it look easy. You know, you have all these rehearsals, and at the beginning, it doesn't look easy because you do it and you
Yeah.
struggle and you fall out of the pirouette, or you don't you don't look good or like performance ready. But because we have this amount of rehearsals, like we tried, like the aim of the game within the ballet world is to make it look easy. And when people comment and just say, oh, ballet looks easy, like that tendu just looks easy, like you just stretch your foot. No, we don't just stretch our foot, we engage like our entire body
Yeah,
for that one simple step. And it's because we've been doing it for so long that it looks so easy. So I'd really appreciate it if people would stop saying that ballet's easy and only for girls,
absolutely.
because it's not only for girls.
Definitely. It is not only just for girls. In fact, we would not be able to do sometimes half of what we do if it weren't for what we do with our partners sometimes. So, with that being said, I don't want to run out of time. If Tessa's still around, and again, I want to thank both of you guys, not only, again, for being amazingly supportive friends during this time, because I love and adore you both. And it's so great that we're able to still stay connected through a screen at the very least. But I want to thank you both for coming on here and being able to talk about so many interesting topics. And yeah, I value you guys immensely as people and as artists, and it means the world to me to be able to share our experiences and share our thoughts and wisdom with so many people, hopefully today. And again, this video is going to be coming soon on the allieetoile YouTube channel so that you can see Tessa and Lenny's lovely faces whenever you wish. They've also been on a few of my vlogs, so check them out as well. But yeah, thank you guys for being part of this. I miss you to pieces, and I hope that you guys are all continuing, I hope that everyone is continuing to stay safe and healthy and well at this time. And until next time on Conversations with Allie Etoile.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Lenny and Tessa, love to you as
Bye.
well. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining.